Well, Kevin, welcome to the show. I'm here with Kevin Cossom. Kevin, I'm really excited to talk about, your different projects because I have to say I wasn't very familiar with your work in the past, but after doing some more research and whatnot, I'm really excited about what you're trying to do musically. For those
I appreciate that.
For those of that are not familiar with who you are, who is Kevin Cossom?
Kevin Cossom is a singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Got my start doing some songwriting back in the day. Got a publishing deal. First big placement for me was a song called Go Getter for Young Jeezy. I wrote the chorus to that, and R. Kelly sang that. And that was big for me too.
It's amazing.
Kelly's one of the greatest, you know what I mean, writers of my time, if not of all time. So for him to sing something that I wrote, even on my first go round, was big. And then after that, Speeding for Rick Ross, Cash Flow, H Hood, My Time for Fabulous, Knock You Down, Carrie Hilson.
Wow.
Chris Brown, It's What I Do, Mary J. Blige, What About Tonight on her last album. That was on her last album. Just been working, man. Usual Suspects with Rick Ross,
well, you've been busy.
A lot of hip hop stuff too, yeah.
And with a variety of different people. Let's talk about some of the people you worked with. Mary J. Blige. What record did you do with Mary?
I did a joint called What About Tonight, which was on her last album. And I'm currently in the studio with her right now. Just working with her for her newest album coming out.
That's amazing. How is it working with Mary J. Blige? She's truly a legend in hip hop soul.
Right. When people ask me who's the coolest person to be in the studio with, I would have to say Mary, man, because she's just so down to earth and just real humble, and and she just allows the mood and the energy to be real free and and open and creative, and she just has a really good spirit, man. So it's really cool, and she's a great worker, hard worker in the studio. It's really. For a while when I was recording with her, I sat back for a second and I was like, man, I'm recording Mary J. Blige, right? Great. So it's definitely a great experience, man, and it's something that I've dreamed of doing since the beginning. You know what I mean? And we're finally in a place where we're working with a lot of different people, and I'm just having fun with it.
And no, Kevin, before we continue about talking about some of the great artists you've worked with, the direction you're trying to go with R&B, just to give everybody, because, the whole point of this interview, I want people to get familiar with you, the artist. Just kind of give them an idea of, what they can expect from, a Kevin Cossom, record.
Right. Well, Kevin Cossom record, you can expect a hard-hitting beat. Infectious melodies, and just a real storytelling approach. Whatever I'm talking about, I like to be elaborate and kind of make you feel like you're there in the moment with me. And those things you can expect. But then also, man, I'm a creative mind, man. So I like to have fun with music and not be boxed into a certain sound or way of doing things. I'm signed to Danger, Nas Records,
which is huge.
Yeah, and his versatility is just off the charts. You know what I'm saying? He's done everything from We Taking Over for DJ Khaled all the way to Give Me More, Britney Spears, to Sober for Pink, to Justin Timberlake, Sexy Back, and My Love. You know what I mean? So, his versatility is just off the charts. And so when we're in the studio, man, we experiment with a lot of different things. And so, with Kevin Cossom, man, you can expect good, fun records, and things that push the music and not, boxed into a certain category or genre. You know what I mean?
In your bio, and I have to, kudos to you and your team because, it's a really great bio that I read about you, and it talked about taking R&B music and really bringing it to the club.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm a young cat. I like to go out up in the clubs a little bit sometimes. And that experience right there is just a fun experience, and to be in the club, to be out, have fun, hear your record out in the club. And then for a while, I really got into hip hop, and so I was just really
And can we expect it on the L.O.V.E album, Levels of Various Emotions? Love that acronym.
Yeah, definitely. And and like I said, man, like there's many different tempos, many different types of beats, and tracks and songs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great body of work. You know what I'm saying? It all goes together. But Love is for me. The album it's an acronym, which is I'm sorry, Levels of Various Emotions. Sorry about that.
I love that too.
Even with, you know what I mean? Like, you can expect the slow jams. You know what I mean? That might be your mood, or, you know what I mean? Or how you feeling at that time, where you can expect the, forget about you, I'm going out tonight type, record, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Because, it's just taking you through the different levels of various emotions that you go through, you know what I mean? Where you're in search of love. Even if it's for a female, or, whoever it is, or, if it's your job, your passion, you know what I mean? I feel like you go through different levels of emotions.
And how did the collaboration between you and Danger even happen?
It was actually on a songwriting vibe or whatever. A publishing company sent me in to work with him.
Okay.
And this was a few years back. This was probably like 4 years back. And he was just branching out on his own because he got to start with Tim.
Yes.
And I wasn't too familiar yet. You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of went in. We both weren't really familiar with each other. But somebody from my publishing company, a guy by the name of Sam Taylor, he was working at my pub company at the time, Warner Chappell. And he knew who Danger was.
Oh, wow.
And he knew me, you know what I'm saying, of course. And, him and my manager talking, they had in their head, like, yo, let's make that happen. Let's set them up together. And they made it happen. It was like a 3-day series of sessions. I want to say on the third day, Danger asked me, yo, is songwriting the only thing you're into? Or that's the only thing you're trying to do? And I was like, nah, man. Being an artist was always something that I wanted to do. To be able to, do my own thing. The writing is just a foot in the door, and it's helping pay the bills right now.
I know that's right.
But no, it's something that I love. I definitely love songwriting, but I always had a passion for just being able to have my own voice in the game, and being able to do my own thing as an artist. And so he asked that question, and we took it from there. I want to say like a month later, we got back together in the studio for me, and we came up with some crazy records, and from then we kind of felt like we had something.
Yeah. So how did little Kevin, who grew up in singing in the church choir and singing gospel songs, branch out into R&B and hip hop?
Like, and when you're younger, my mom kind of was no secular music for a while. But as I grew up or whatever, and I was I was still able to listen to a few different things.
Yeah.
And she knew I just had a big passion for music. And I guess after a while, it was kind of like, well, she kind of opened up. My mom, she's a teacher, so she's around kids a lot. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, she might sneak or hear a song from time to time. She's like, it's not that bad.